Our habits are filled with deja vu moments. It's that feeling inside of like, I've been here before, or I've seen or heard or done this thing many times before. And today I want to talk about how to make our old habits a little less sticky. How to get rid of some of these habits that are no longer serving us, that are perhaps unhealthy either for our minds and the way that we're thinking or for our bodies, by introducing a prompt that can lead to a little Vuja day, which as the opposite of a deja vu, it's that moment of I've seen this before, but all of a sudden it's flipped on its head. I see it in a totally new light, and there's this aha moment of, but I see it differently. So, are you curious? How do we actually trigger a Vuja day moment? Well, one of the most interesting ways is to look at the anatomy of a habit, which essentially involves three parts. It involves first the trigger, then the response, and the reward. Now, the trigger and the reward are super tough to shift. It's not impossible, but often the trigger is coming from something outside of us or a subconscious, unconscious pattern within us. But where we have the most potential to make a shift is in that response section. How we decide to react to whatever that trigger is. I'll give you an example. I had a mental trigger. Anytime I would be in a situation where it wouldn't go exactly as I wanted, I would leave the situation, but then keep replaying the situation again and again and again in my head. I would rehost the conversation. I would think, what if I had said this? And oh, I wonder if they meant that. And it was this cycle that somehow the reward was making me feel like I was maybe feeling understood, or I was understanding the situation better than I had in the moment. But instead, actually, it was causing me a whole lot of pain and frustration and agitation because it was sucking energy from the rest of my life. And this is where we can introduce something called the pain-pleasure awareness. It's looking that in the moment often, we are believing that we are avoiding pain and going towards pleasure with whatever our actions are, with what this habit does. And oftentimes in the direct response, in that moment, it is. In our minds, we imagine that to change this habit would cause a lot of pain. It would cost us a lot. And the pleasure of just being able to sit back in it, no problem. But when we take a moment and consciously start to look at what is the pain, what is the cost of continuing this habit as a whole, versus what is the cost of changing and what is the potential pleasure that we might experience, all of a sudden things start to shift on their heads. I had exactly this with that realization of me churning these conversations again and again and again inside of my head. They call it rumination. And as a disgusting side point, this was one of the things that helped me, is that the other place where we use rumination is with a cow's stomachs. And I said that right, stomachs, because a cow has multiple stomachs in which the food passes and is processed again and again through each of the stomachs. Y'all, that's not the nicest picture to have, but that's exactly what was going on inside of my mind. I wasn't just processing something and letting it go. It was digesting again and again and again. And it was not healthy. And I started to realize how much energy, how much pain and frustration I was causing myself with this habit of ruminating my thoughts. And so in that moment, I had this aha. Because I was seeing, yes, I see that in the moment, I'm thinking, yeah, I'm going over this because next time it'll help me do it better. But it wasn't. It was taking up my headspace, and I was just feeding on the agitation all the while. And the next time I went into the situation, I wasn't handling it any better. So I had been lying to myself on my pain-pleasure model. And when I saw the actual cost in the past and what I saw it might be costing me in the future to keep that habit, all of a sudden something shifted. And I started to see that rumination as something that was actually incredibly painful to hold on to. And so all of a sudden, time by time, I started to be able to say, what is it costing me to think about this anymore? Can I choose to let it go? And I had my own thing for this. It didn't mean that I was foolish. It didn't mean that I was letting somebody else win or that I was losing. But instead, it was a conscious choice to be more healthy in my mind and in my thoughts, and to choose what was better for me. So, my question to you is, where do you have some of these sticky old habits, either with your mindset or with the way that you're caring for your body? And can you take a moment to look at the actual pain and pleasure model? Become aware of what it's actually costing you to continue with this habit, and see if you can't inspire a little Vuja day in your life.